Arkansas. Third down and longs were a disaster for the Hogs a year ago. They will complete this one here. The pass is caught by the freshman. Hicks steps up in the pocket, throws over the middle. The pass is caught by the freshman Traylon Burks. Boy, all day to throw for Hicks. Goes back to the wide side of the field. The pass is caught by,
towards the end of the year until we see if there's enough talent on the outside to complement what Rakeem Boyd is and the talent they have in the backfield.
They're able to convert this one to Traylon Burks.
To earn the job, but he says his road here, he's worked for it and feels good about getting it. First pass of the game is caught. Traylon Burks out of bounds. Woods comes in motion across the formation, but Starkle will throw. Pass is just snatched right out of midair by Traylon Burks.
Good job getting the ball out of his hands.
First time we've really seen some zip on a pass for him in a while. Comes across the middle. This one is picked up by Burks, and he's inside the 40.
Ben Hicks familiar with the system of Chad Morris. He was with him at SMU before transferring here to Arkansas.
Also a transfer. This is Burks on the return. Back to the 26. Trying to get to the edge. Got a nice block. Spring him loose. Burks into A&M territory at the 40-yard line. One here. Hicks makes the catch at the 11-yard line. And Burks hooked it. Defensive coordinator, 2nd and 15. Hicks got rid of it. And caught. Redemption for Burks. The perpetrator on that last penalty. And this one batted down. Huge third down. Pressure was faced. Look at this. Comes back. That ball's under control while he's in the air. And O'Brady. This is my best friend. These kind of balls. With an eye number 85. Downfield. What a spread. What a pass complete. Burks with the catch at the other end. Oliver helplessly defending on the play. With a true push-up. Max Duffy into a full moon. That's a beauty.
Welcome in, welcome in, welcome in. It's our Monday edition of On the Hill with Pat Jenkins Sports Talk Radio. We're calling this the water cooler, as today's show is all about our viewers and guests, your questions, our questions, everything you might want to know. And one of the questions that we have is, as we showed you Traylon Burks, we want to give a shout out to Traylon, as it is his birthday today. Hope it's a blessed 20th birthday for him. But Sam Pittman mentioned Traylon in our media day teleconference on Friday. And so talked about weight gain. Outside of Traylon Burks, I know Sam mentioned Michael Woods. We'll have a video of Michael as well throughout the show. Who are some of the main players, in your opinion, as a fan, not from what you hear from us, but who are some of the players that you'd like to see step up in this 2020 season under Sam Pittman in year one? Who are some of the key cogs that you think it's going to take for Arkansas to have a successful season? Also, too, came out, Mason Jones through social media tweeted out to the extent of a big decision. And, where are you at? Should Mason and Isaiah come back? If they come back, I know there's early publications and way too early top 25 polls. Some have Arkansas at 20. Some have Arkansas at 17. Some at 21, 22, around that. So this is all, this is shaping up to be a top 25 basketball team, and a lot of expectations. And I want to bring in real quick, or before I do that, I want to come in and say thank you to all of our sponsors, as this would not be possible. First of all, Lindsay & Associates, with an office location in Fayetteville, an office location also, too, in Rogers. Locomotion, located just below the Northwest Arkansas Mall in Fayetteville. Corey Beck's Custom Painting, and lastly, my favorite, KDK's Chicken at 989 Razorback Road. Get down there, see Keith and Kathy. Get a plate of that love. And like I said, either meet me there or beat me there, because like I say, it's not your mama's. They got the best chicken and waffles in the South, and lots more on their menu. Go down and check out Keith and Kathy. You won't be disappointed. But now I want to take a quick break. When we come back, think of your questions, and then let's get into our discussion, because we'd like to answer a lot. It's the water cooler here on Monday. It's all about the fans. It's On the Hill with Pat Jenkins on KDSJ 479. It's Monday, and let's get it.
Situations that destroyed them offensively last year. That's floated in the air, but it is caught around the 45-yard line by Mike Woods.
There, but it should have been a first down. Strong throw for Nick Starkle out to Mike Woods, and it's 1-2 for the first time since 1988. BYU goes into Knoxville and knocks it in overtime. Deep ball, complete, and an Arkansas first down, and the Razorbacks taking it. Arkansas change quarterbacks at A&M transfer Nick Starkle was able to find the edge. You see Nick Starkle side by side.
Tosses it up, has a man caught by Woods. That'll go to the house. 62 yards. O'Grady in motion. Trying to get it all here, including the touchdown. Catch is made at the 10-yard line. Mike Woods coming up with a play. 7.
Just watch how good of a ball. This ball is thrown a little bit inside. Watch him come inside and track it a little bit. Slows his body down and makes just a really good catch on it.
Open up and burst through it for a big first down. Back shoulder fade, touchdown, Woods.
Jimmy God.
Watch the placement of this football. Back shoulder where only his receiver, Mike Woods, can make a play on the football.
Jimmy God, the producer.
Collapsing pocket delivers a strike for a first down. 14 yards to Woods.
Steven to the end zone. Got it! Mike Woods, touchdown.
Jimmy God, the producer.
I still think they are within reach of the playoff. They just hit a lot.
Darko's pass is caught by Woods.
Ground and pound, and has a lot for him to spread. They have to figure out how to identify the best available. I'll tell you what.
Lindsey wide open. Mike
Jimmy
Woods,
God.
touchdown. Good drive by Arkansas.
Very nice drive.
He would lead 2 touchdown drives, one of which was 2 plays, so they have the ability to score quickly. Maybe his legs
The
are the way to
producer.
go.
Stepping up, tossing. That's complete for a first down. Complete on the edge to Mike Woods, the sophomore from Magnolia, Texas.
Welcome back to our Monday edition. It's the water cooler edition, as we want to talk with you all. The question was out, who are going to be some of the key players that you think for this Arkansas football team that has to step up for them to have a very successful year one under Coach Sam Pittman and staff. And also, too, we got a good question from Deion Johnson, and he says no individuals, the whole team got to step up. That name sounds familiar. You have any knowledge of this individual, Mr. Demetrius?
Nah, I don't know that guy. I don't know that guy.
I think he has a great question, and that to a certain degree can be true, because I think it's going to take not only the wide receiver core. We've talked about that, and Sam mentioned that on Friday that may or should be the strength of the team. Hence, why you've seen Mike Woods, Traylon Burks, and we got Trey Knox coming up too. Kind of just to show you some things that we all see in practice. You've seen throughout the year, and what Coach Sam Pittman is starting to see in fall camp workouts to have the assessment to make the wide receiver core its strongest position outside of that running back spot. There's another question, Demetrius. When you talk about Raheem Boyd, we know what Raheem has done with his body of work, but Traylon Smith was another guy that Sam transfer, the former transfer from Arizona State to Arkansas set out last year. He was a guy that was mentioned. And, you know as well as I know when we talk, I'm a big Amante Spivey guy. My question also would be, at the running back spot, Demetrius, who would be your next man up in the rotation once we get into fall camp and the football season?
I think that's really kind of hard to say. I think spring ball would have been a lot of insight on how we could have go about that shuffle, because I think when you look at Amante Spivey and you look at the transfer, I always forget his name, from Houston, the running back from Houston.
Oh, Traylon Smith.
Traylon Smith. I don't know why I want to call him Breaks. Traylon Smith. When you look at those two guys, those are two explosive running backs that can really give you definitely a change of pace. And then you even throw in, I'm just going blank today.
Spivey.
No, I said Spivey.
You talk. He also mentioned T.J. Hammond.
T.J. Hammond. That's exactly.
Coach did mention T.J. Hammond.
He, Coach Sam Pittman mentioned T.J. and how he was really showing him things that these were going to be kind of the battle between what was going on. So he spoke on how Raheem, somebody. I think the question was he planning on limiting Raheem for the spring game,
right?
And things of that nature, and would he allow
Kennedy's late in the fourth
Raheem
quarter
to play 100%?
Have some third down stops. He couldn't get off the field.
We plan on
Raheem Boyd takes a simple pass and turns it into a 12-yard gain.
Reps that he's taking within the scrimmage, but other than that, I think Coach Sam is looking for guys to really step up. And then speak on the running back coach, because that was one thing.
Jimmy Smith.
Sam Pittman also really spoke up that running back room.
Yeah, Sam had a prior relationship with Jimmy Smith for the last 5 years during his time at Georgia. Jimmy comes from one of the more widely respected high school programs, spent a year at Georgia State as their running backs coach, and when the position came available for Sam to hire running backs coach, Jimmy Smith was right there at the top of the list. And I mean, it's a very big-time hire, because you have to take into account the connections and the deep ties that he has with a lot of the Georgia high school coaches, and he's really well known throughout the Atlanta area with multiple parents, cousins, uncles, aunts. So that's going to be really big going forward, and he has a certain type of energy. I talked to a young man, Antonio Martin Jr., running back 2022 prospect out of the Georgia area, and that was the one thing that he mentioned about Jimmy Smith is his ability to keep his word. Jimmy recruited him at Georgia State. And, once he took the job here, Antonio in that 2022 running back class that they're highly going to recruit was one of the first guys that he reached out to in attempts to start building that interest for Arkansas while he had built it at Georgia State also. So, I mean, Jimmy's going to be a big-time hire going forward, Demetrius. Also, too, we got a question. We can't get past Ty. I'm going with Bryles, Ty says.
That's a comment, not a question.
Okay. He said he's going to go with Bryles. It's about outscoring the opponents. I totally agree. And he has a very high percentage rate. When he gets a first down on drives, those drives tend to end up in 3 to 7 points at a very high percentage. Under Kendall Bryles, at whatever stop he's been at. It's just one of those stats that when you see it, you'll really understand just how effective he can be. So great question. David Mills. Great comment. Great question or comment. David Mills says, I went and watched Frank's highlights. And with receivers, Boyd, I think with all that, okay, this should be pretty good. Wow. God got to get defense. Okay. And you definitely have to get a pass rush. Great question, David. I think with the weapons surrounding either Felipe Franks, KJ Jefferson, Malik Hornsby, or whomever the quarterback is, because the one thing I do know going into fall camp is this is going to be one of the more highly competitive quarterback battles, Demetrius, at the University of Arkansas that I've seen in a long time. And it's going to be one of those situations, Demetrius, and we've covered this program for quite some time. It's going to be a situation that you finally are going to be able to say for 100% fact, this quarterback in that room was the best quarterback through the toughest competition. Because I'm telling you, you're going to have Malik Hornsby and KJ. Those are some young guys that want to get on the field, but you have that experienced Felipe Franks, who I feel is going to come in with a huge chip on his shoulder to prove that he can still be that 10-3 and beyond type of quarterback.
Yeah, I do think Felipe is going to come in and bring stability with the program as far as the quarterback position. Now, I don't know if he's the long-term answer even from a seasonal standpoint, but I think even when you look at the first 4 games with the teams we play with, Notre Dame,
right.
You have an experienced team in Nevada coming in, and then what you play A&M 2 games later after
Mississippi State's thrown in there.
When you just look at the experience that we're going up against so early with the important SEC games coming up, because even when you look at those Mississippi games, those are important games to the ending of Arkansas's career. Year, meaning those are games circled that they say, hey, these are games we should win. You have to keep those 2 Mississippi teams in there. So I think those are critical games as far as Sam Pittman.
I totally agree with you. I think this, like I said, the meat of the schedule is right there at the front. With the likes of a Nevada team, who I like you said, Demetrius, I totally agree. It's going to be a really tough test right out of the gate for this football team going forward. And I think then you follow it up with a trip to Notre Dame, very experienced roster, but new offensive coordinator, so they'll be learning a new system. Now, the offensive coordinator is a former Notre Damean himself, so he'll have an extra little passion, as we all know. When you get to go home and coach at your alma mater, everything is amped up 2 or 3 extra notches just by nature. And then when you look at following that, Mississippi State, Texas A&M, you have Alabama, LSU, Tennessee. It's going to be a very tough road, but I think this football team during fall camp, you'll see a different type of culture, mentality, more of a more physical as coach. And you hear a lot of that with Coach Pittman, confident. He's always talking about confidence, Demetrius. And I think that's going to be something really big that we have to watch. This football team can this team get off early and gain some confidence that hadn't been on that sideline in several years. And it goes back to probably after year 3, when Sam left, that 16 and beyond, just seemed like it was a different type of, energy in that football program.
Yeah, definitely. I want to go back to the comment that David Mills mentioned as far as teams having to outscore. I think when you look at the way the SEC is structured, it's turning towards a more offensive-powered conference.
Right.
When you look at past history of the SEC, it was always known for the defensive players. And I still believe this will be the most elite defensive players in college football.
Right.
But the ability to score is at an all-time high. When you look at the type of receivers and the type of offensive players on the offensive side of the ball and just the type of schemes that they're running.
Correct.
Football is built to score right now. Even when you look at the way you play defense and the way you can hit and tackle, it's predicated upon scoring. So I think David was absolutely right that Arkansas is going to have to score anywhere between 30 to 40 points a game to really compete. Even when you look at the type of coordinators and head coaches that moved into the SEC, they bring an offensive scoring mindset. When you look at Lane Kiffin, guys like that, those are guys that are known for their offensive success. So I think David hit it right on the head as far as Arkansas really having to have that offensive power behind them to really compete this 2020 season.
We're going to take a real quick break, and then we're going to talk a little must-bust. What are the possibilities for next year's basketball team if they retain Mason Jones in his senior year and get the junior Isaiah Joe back? What will be your expectations? Give us those questions. Who will be the new players? I mean, what players outside the core? Who are going to be some of the, the rising either incoming freshmen, or will it be J.D. Note or Connor Vanover? In my humble opinion, I've said it time and time again, and I'll say it here on the air and won't change it. I think J.D. Note will be the biggest addition to this basketball team next year, as he's going to be that true point guard like a Lee Mayberry. like a Kenny Norton, like a Corey Beck, a guy that can, get this team and think like his head coach, Eric Mossman, and put people in play, but also have the ability when called upon and the need to do so, get to the rim, create fouls, get to the free throw line. I think J.D. Notae is going to be that guy. You just watch and see. But that's my opinion. We're going to take a real quick break, and then, like I said, you've heard the questions. Tell us what your answers are, and give me a lineup. Tell us what will be your starting lineup for next year's Razorback basketball team in the 2020-2021 campaign. All that's up. It's On the Hill with Pat Jenkins on KDSJ 479. Back in a bit.
KCC's leading scorer, Jones. Count the basket. Jones on a step back. Continues to ignite. What a game for Mason Jones. Jones bursting into the lane. Back-to-back 30-point games.
Here's Jones again.
A bucket again. How does he do it? 40-point night. Step back. Got it. Mason Jones up to 30. Mason Jones is in an absolute zone right now. Lights out in Budwell. 37 for Jones.
Well, Mason Jones steps out from long range for the first points of the season. Mason Jones feeling it early with a couple of NBA three-point passes. Mason Jones, boy, that's another heat check. Three-pointers from Mason Jones. Not even close to the new three-point line.
I assume as the year goes on, they'll get that together.
Well, that was a tough shot, but Mason Jones is red hot for.
Get all the way to the basket. He's a special player.
Joe with the takeaway. Mason Jones. We didn't see that last year either. The leaner, meaner Mason Jones will flush. Tough shot from Mason Jones, but he drills the triple.
Good fake.
It's a great ball movement by the Razorbacks.
Got it.
That's just
warning his team. You better watch out for these active hands. Cody Kelly.
Not that he remembered it.
But get the ball inside.
Or fire for three. Mason Jones hits it.
Maybe you don't.
In the starting five for much of last year, now the sixth man off the bench. Jones for three. He nailed it. Turnover here. Easy bucket for Mason Jones.
That was not.
Jones on the baseline. What a move.
Beat you with a three.
Jones for three. And he banks it in.
Welcome back to our Monday edition of On the Hill with Pat Jenkins Sports Talk Radio. And real quick, if you have not had a chance to get down to 989 Razorback Road where you can catch up, go down and see Keith and Kathy. Go get a plate of that love. I'm talking about lots of love. They have the best chicken and waffles in the South. And when you look at what it says, they don't lie. It's not your mama's. I'm talking about pretty good. You can meet me there or you beat me there. Whichever one. Just go down and see Keith and Kathy. Great service. I'm pretty sure, and you will come back, won't you, Demetrius? I'm talking about they will be back. But our question was next year's roster with the additions. If I know Mason Jones is going to be making a decision here soon, as well, I believe Isaiah Joe, the sophomore sensation shooting guard as well. Those two come back, in your opinion, I want you to give me, as a fan base, your starting five, and out of the incoming players, the new crop. We're talking about J.D. Notae, Connor Vanover, Moses Moody, K.K. Robinson, Devonta Davis, and Jalen Williams. What will be the players, two players minimum, who will be those guys that you look forward to having a very successful first year in the basketball program, in your opinion? And I want to go to Demetrius, and if they have Isaiah Joe back, and you get Mason, a lot of early season polls has this basketball team top 25. Could this be what will be your expectation if those two young men and that core, and we talk about the guys that's been here for 3 years, you throw in Reggie, you throw in Desi, you throw in Jalen, and you throw in Ethan. If that core can come back, what they can add, what's going to be your expectation going into next season?
I think a bid to the Sweet 16. I'm not necessarily saying they have to go in and win that Sweet 16 going into the Elite 8, but I do believe that they have enough talent on that team to go to the Sweet 16. And then not only that, the coaching, just the type of players that I think are going to be more styled towards Coach Musselman's offense, and not only that, the leadership and experience returning, because I think this will be one of Musselman's more highly, what's the word?
More talented.
Yeah, and I'm talking about even from the longevity of his career here at Arkansas. I think people are going to look back on this team and say, wow, that was probably one of the better teams Musselman has. I do think he's still going to continue to get more talent, but I think when you look at what all these kids bring, even though, guys like KK Robertson are going to be freshmen, when you look at the end of their career and say, hey, these are guys that attended the University of Arkansas, you're going to look back and say, hey, this was a great group of guys. And I think if they can build some type of cohesion and role playing, because a lot of these guys, like Michael Moses Moody, are used to being the star players on their team and kind of the workhorses. That takes a little adjustment when you go from being the man to, hey, now you're getting role minutes. And I think that's something you have to really be a part of the game and really love if you don't have that immediate impact that you like. So I think Musselman has the opportunity to at least go to a Sweet 16.
And I totally agree. And I think, when you talk about this, I think with that class being so highly ranked as one of the top 5 to 6 classes in college basketball for a freshman class incoming, those are the type of classes, that's the type of talent that you have to recruit to your university nowadays to be able to, legitimately consider yourself a legitimate conference and NCAA contender. And I think with this roster, the one thing that you will notice that this will be a really good shooting basketball team. They're going to add a lot more shooters. Devonta, Devo can shoot it. KK can shoot it. Moses Moody can absolutely shoot the 3 ball at a very high clip. Jalen Williams being 6'10", that's going to be something that a lot of people, kind of reminisce back to the Bobby Portis, Dwight Stewart days where the big man would go out behind the three-point line and have the skill to consistently knock down the three-point shot. But I still go back to Connor Vanover. Connor's going to surprise people by his ability to shoot the basketball and his ability to pass. I think that's going to be the biggest advantage for this upcoming basketball team is their two bigs in Jalen and Connor at 6'10" and 7'3", having the ability to pass the basketball over the top of defenses and recognize mismatches. I think that's going to really stand out going forward in next year's team that's going to have them in a lot of contention. And a lot of people have to realize Arkansas lost 8 games this year by a combined 13 points. 4 games at home by 31, 4 games at home by a combined 13 points. This basketball team, when you look over, as we keep talking about the core, Demetrius, look at all the close games that they've been in, their freshmen and junior and sophomore years. I mean, this team has to grow up and experience there's nothing like experience. And you saw in moments when they won the close game at Georgia Tech and at Indiana and a couple of those close ones on the road in the SEC, moments that they went back from year prior and learned from. And I think that's what this team is really going to do. They're going to be a problem. They're going to be a serious problem in the SEC starting next year. And I'll go on record to say, Demetrius, you heard me say this, the athletic journey, I think that's about to take place here at the University of Arkansas. And I'm not talking about everybody winning championships in year one, but I think the progression with the coaches that are in place on this campus and the ability to have the staffs that can recruit to the level that I think you have to recruit at to compete. I mean, you can have the nicest facilities in the world, Demetrius. It's all about the Jimmies and the Joes. And if you don't have any of them, you're not going to compete. I think they have them, and they're about to get a better recruiting foundation. And Sam also said it in football. It's a big man's league. I mean, you and I sit down on the sidelines, Demetrius. We see time and time again, week in, week out, the amount of mass that these football teams have in the SEC. I mean, I remember you went down to Auburn and came back several years ago and just told me, you were up close and could tell the difference in the offensive lines. And I think the field doesn't need to tilt as it has been here in the last few years to the visiting sideline. It needs to be balanced out, and I think that's going to be what you see in the football program. And then when you flip over to basketball, a lot of similarities from Coach Neighbors year 1 to year 2, as I think you're going to see with Coach Musk from year 1 to year 2. And then and then you look at what Coach Neighbors and that staff has done. I mean, he's got this women's basketball program on a national stage. People understand who the Arkansas Razorbacks are when you talk about women's basketball, and that's
about track,
and you talk about track, baseball,
SEC indoor. So.
Absolutely. So I think with what's in place on the yard in Fayetteville, Arkansas, this could be some of the better times athletically that this program and this fan base have seen, and that's my opinion, my humble opinion. Demetrius have heard me say this years on out, so this is not something that I'm really just saying nowadays. This is what I truly believe with the staffs and the coaches that Yurachek has in place. You have to feel good about the future, Demetrius.
Absolutely, and going back to comment on basketball, even when you look at like the percentage of the offense, I'm not gonna say basketball is more offense than defense, but I look at what Arkansas bread and butter is, which is shooting more threes than the other team and really outscoring and putting up more shots. When you look at that and the pieces that they're bringing in, and from a stat standpoint, you only can see them getting better. With Mason Jones and Isaiah Joe being at least over 50% of the offense from this year's team. So you're talking about 50% of the offense returning, and then you're getting additional offensive players.
We have a stat on Isaiah Joe that we're going to pull up here in a moment, and just let you see some of the statistical things that this young man has been able to accomplish as a player in his first 2 years as a Razorback, and what could be, something that you can see in the future if he comes back for his junior year. I mean, we have to realize Isaiah was a player that missed 5 games. This team would not have been a bubble team had Isaiah been in those 5 games. You have to believe they probably at worst, I believe, would have went 3-2. So now you're not that 21, that 20-12 team. You're more of a 23-9 team. So now you're solidified in the NCAA tournament, because I really felt like this before Isaiah went down was going to be a tournament team, and I really feel like it's going to be a high-seeded tournament team. I'll be shocked, Demetrius. I'll go on record and say this again, because I'm one of those guys, if I don't believe it, I won't say it for those that have watched me, but I think Arkansas will enter the NCAA tournament next year no lower than a 6th seed. I said it, no lower than a 6th seed. I think this team has a chance to be really, really special and make a lot of noise in the SEC. I think they'll be one of the top 2 or 3 SEC teams next year going forward. I just think their experience level will start to be something that you have to have, in particular in basketball, Demetrius, in my opinion. Also, too, baseball. When you look at Van Horn and that program, I mean, very unfortunate that they had to, totally wipe out this season. As I know, they were being picked. A lot of media outside of our area picking Arkansas's baseball team to be one of those, those programs that had a chance to win, this year's College World Series national championship. So with all that being said, I mean, what's coming back? A lot of talent, a lot of young talent that's just eager to prove itself here in Fayetteville. But we're going to take one more quick break, and then we're going to finish it out. Shoot us your questions. I saw one that's really, really good from Don Houston, and I wanted to come out, and Demetrius and I will definitely tell you what we think. It's all coming up. It's On the Hill with Pat Jenkins on KDSJ 479. Back in a bit.
Well, if you're LSU, you'd love to slice this deficit down to 15, maybe 14 before the break. Lead's been as great as 21 so far.
Skylar Mays going under ball screens on Mason Jones. Don't be surprised if Jones eventually shoots.
I think he's fine with that. Inside, penetrating move.
Well, that's what makes you
And the Hogs have been doing the banging tonight so far. Cheney, brilliant dime drop by Mason Jones. A chance for 3 more for the Razorbacks. Watford from the wing. Big shot. That's 3 on the board.
And I think this is a technical on Watford for turning around and saying something to the Arkansas bench. I was just about to say.
Tap to Graves. And he'll connect. 51-30. Jones wants it, takes it, fouled, and one! And the crowd speaks its mind about who the real MVP should be this season in the SEC. Jones with 20 points in the first half, making a pretty solid case.
What you want in your first possession. Bailey is their best three-point shooter percentage-wise.
Skylar Mays from the corner. That's
double
a trip.
by.
Arkansas trying to enhance its resume and creep up the standings. Here's Witt, the spin, and the finish.
I know that Jimmy Witt's only relatively quiet in the first half.
Here's Witt with just in rhythm with the bounce. Give him 16.
I think
here's back to 20.
Here's what I'm talking about. I like this. Change things up.
From the corner, Isaiah Joe.
But you have to be willing to run that.
Smart wants it, takes it, and finishes from downtown.
Just
Isaiah Joe. What the putback for the senior, Jimmy Witt Jr.
Wow. It's too far off. Jones is going to shoot that.
You can feel it coming.
Welcome back to our Monday edition of On the Hill with Pat Jenkins Sports Talk Radio here on KDSJ 479. And real quick before we close it out, we had a stat that my producer always, he's one step ahead. He had it on Isaiah Jones. We're going to put that stat up. And also, too, while you really look over Isaiah's stat sheet, I want to call out and talk about Don Houston. If Joe and Mason come back, I believe they could be 94 team. And then he also goes on to say, you can get somebody to come off the bench for 15 to 20 points. Not knowing if it's the 94 team. That 94 team had a lot. That was a really special basketball team, both on and off the court. The chemistry that group had. And I'm not saying that this upcoming basketball team doesn't have the possibility, but that team had a different maturity about it. And it was all from the onset, from their freshman year. I mean, these guys go to Arizona, and Scotty Thurman puts up 34 points his true freshman year. I mean, that was a different group. I think this team will be really, really, really special with a break here or there. I mean, who knows? I mean, with today, the way basketball is today, this team is what basketball is. It's about the three-point shot. It's about the layup. It's about shooting free throws, the pace with space. That's something I believe every collegiate coach, and it's even you can see it in the NBA and at the high school level. A lot of coaches like to play with that space and do the one-on-one off-the-bounce stuff. So I feel like, that's something that this team and the 94 team also may have in comparable. But I think this team, the 94 team to me, Demetrius, also too, was a little bit better shooting team from top to bottom. Multiple three-point shooters, multiple guys that could come off that bench at any given moment and drop 15 to 20 as Don stated. But really good question, Don. And also, too, when you look at these stats of Isaiah Joe, and we'll pull them up on the screen, and, just what this young man has been able to accomplish over a 2-year period is really something that I hadn't seen at the University of Arkansas, in a long, long time. I mean, this guy's a stat sheet stuffer. And what I did see, Demetrius, that I was really impressed with is defensively. I thought Isaiah Joe really improved that part of his game.
Definitely. I think we had a heated discussion one day.
Friday.
As far as what we thought Isaiah needed to improve on. But, I think Isaiah's an amazing player. I don't take anything away from his shooting ability. I definitely think he's going to be one of the great shooters in Arkansas history. But to me, the only thing he just needs to work on is really his ability to go to the rim.
Right.
Too many times players do settle for jump shots and don't attack the rim. And I think if Isaiah Joe can just get that ability to make, even if it's a pull-up jumper off of pump faking or create some type of mid-range, I think if he adds that to his game, a little physicality and a slashing game, I think he can have longevity. I think it's one thing to make it to the NBA, but I think it's another thing to have 5+ years or 10+ years in the NBA, that longevity. And I think, when you look at a player to Isaiah Joe's caliber, he's capable of making it to the NBA off of purely his shot.
Yes.
But for the longevity of his career, I think he can add pieces around himself as far as attributes to improve his basketball game. Being able to play with his back against a basket and then turn around and shoot a fadeaway. Things like that. Like Jordan S. or those, even Tracy McGrady, because that's really who he reminds me of. He reminds me of Tracy McGrady. Not as athletic when it comes to dunking.
Or maybe not as a little tall. He's a little shorter, but I understand where you're going with it.
He maybe doesn't have that ability to go up and yam it like a McGrady, but his style of play, that finesse type of player, and the ability to really shoot the basketball, he really reminds me.
Well, that's going to wrap up our show today. Now, remember, we're going to start back tomorrow with our Hall Guy segment, as we want you to just step into the journey of a lot of these top recruits at the University of Arkansas, Sam Pittman, Eric Musselman, Mike Neighbors, and all those coaches have. So we're going to continue on with that segment each and every day starting tomorrow. We'll let you hear a little bit of the Hall Guy and let these recruits tell you just where Arkansas and many schools sit as far as their college choices are concerned. But want to give a shout out and a thank you to our sponsors before we get out of here. With that being said, Lindsay and Associates, with an office location in Fayetteville, an office location also too in Rogers. Locomotion, it's located in Fayetteville just below the Northwest Arkansas Mall. Corey Beck's Custom Painting. If you need it to look good, you better contact Corey Beck and you will not be disappointed. And last, our favorite, which is my favorite, KDK's Chicken, located down at 989 Razorback Road. Go down and see Keith and Kathy and get a plate of that love. And like I keep telling you all the time, it's not your mama's. The best chicken and waffles in the South. Meet me there or beat me there. But either way, make sure you get down there and check out KDK's Chicken. That's going to do it for my producer. For myself to you all, thanks for the great questions. Let's talk a little bit about tomorrow. If you have any questions that you would like for us to answer, ask any of our recruits, make sure that you hit us up on our Facebook page at On the Hill Sports Talk. You can hit us up on our YouTube live stream. That's On the Hill Sports Talk LLC. Also, too, before we get out of here, Demetrius, let them know where else can they hear the On the Hill Sports Talk radio show.
Definitely. You can check us out on YouTube at On the Hill Sports Talk LLC. You can also check out Sauced Up Entertainment LLC. You can check us out on Spotify. That's On the Hill Sports Talk. Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and any other social media platform. I'm pretty sure
all over the place.
If you have podcasts or MP3, I'm pretty sure you can search On the Hill Sports Talk and we'll pop up.
That'll do it. Thanks for the information, and we'll get back with you tomorrow for our Tuesday edition. But for now, it's On the Hill with Pat Jenkins on KDSJ 479. You guys have a blessed one, and let's get it.
Team, God.